Hi friends, it's Marie here again. Welcome back to my channel. I have some new stencils from Tonic Studios. These are a few new designs that they've recently come out with, and I am just now getting around to playing with them. So I'm just kind of playing in my video. I just sat down to create just because I wanted to, but I wanted to take this opportunity to show you a few different ways to use your stencils. Now these are not new techniques. These are ones that I've done before. I have other videos showing these techniques, but I'm just kind of compiling these cards together in different stenciled designs. So I like to tape my cardstock from the back side of my stencil. That way my whole front of the card is clear that I can go ahead and stencil on ink or any other medium that I'm using. And also when I take that tape off, if for some chance it tears my cardstock, it'll be on the back side. So I'm also using some Nuvo hybrid inks, and I'm just adding a little bit of color. I'm starting in the middle and blending it out. Now this is a hybrid ink, like I mentioned. It will be permanent when dry, so you can do other mediums on top if you want to. I didn't do it, but if you have some of that clear glitter gel or glitter paste, you can go ahead and run that over the top as well. You'll get the shine from the paste and then the color from the ink, and it's not going to run or tint your gel, so it's going to stay where you put it. So I've put that yellow in the middle there, and I'm coming around the outside edges with a little bit of blue. I am going to let this ink overlap in the middle. It's going to make a green where it's transitioning from the blue to the yellow. So you're going to get a nice little blend of colors going on here. So here's my background all blended out, and this is kind of the first way that you can use your stencil. Just go ahead and stencil a background and you can see how gorgeous that is. Now if you wanted to go over this again with some more color, fill in those white areas, you can just blend them together. I'm going to leave it white, and I'm going to take this heart die and cut out the center of this card panel. This way I'm going to get a stenciled heart shape, and I'm going to get that heart frame, and I'm going to be able to use the positive and the negative parts of this cut and get two cards out of one background. So I think this is a fabulous way to make more cards in a similar style. If you want to make like a set of cards, you can just go ahead, cut out the middle with a shape, and then use it on a background. So I'm going to go ahead and grab another piece of cardstock here. I'm ink blending my same stencil that I did for my first panel, and I'm blending the middle again. Now I don't want to blend the whole background. I really want this to be kind of light. So I'm starting in the middle. It's going to be darkest in the middle, and then it's going to fade out around the outside. I'm kind of going in a large circle here. I want to make just a little bit of a stenciled background to put my heart on top of. So I'm using the same blue that I used to stencil my first card. It's going to coordinate with that yellow stenciled heart that I've already done. And I'm going to end up with two cards that coordinate. They look like a set. So you can leave it like this, but I am going to go ahead and take some more ink and ink blend over that stenciled design. And it's going to add a little bit more color there, help my little yellow heart pop out from the background a little bit. I'm just starting in the middle and blending out to the edges. I know I'm going to get the middle covered with this heart, so if I get a little bit of streaks or marks from my foam ink blending pad, it's going to be hidden. So that's why I start right in the middle and just blend it out to the edges. So here's my two cards. I didn't show how I did the sentiment and things because I wanted to kind of focus on the stenciling today, but you can see how you get two cards, similar styles. They kind of look like a set. If you wanted to make a lot of these in a short amount of time, that's how you can do it. So I'm going to move on, show you my next stenciled technique, and I'm kind of making all the cards that I'm making today in the same style. Like I mentioned, kind of making a set of cards together. So I'm doing a little bit of ink blending here on the side. I didn't show it because we just watched a bunch of ink blending, and I'm going to go ahead and tape my stencil down. There's a little line right in the center, and I'm kind of lining that up on the side of my card, making sure that my stencil is straight and that I'm also getting a good design on my card. And I'm really just going to keep putting some of this glitter paste on the edge and just blending it out. So my design is actually coming in off of the side. Sometimes I like to offset some of my designs, not put them smack center of my card and kind of just angle them a little bit. It adds a little bit more interest to your cards, and you can get a few different designs by doing this. If I wanted to place my stencil on the bottom of my cardstock and have the design coming up from the bottom, I can use the exact same technique for this, but just orient my design a little bit differently and get another card if I wanted to make a set. So there's a lot of little tweaks you can make, but using the same techniques and the same designs to make sets of cards. Another thing I love about this is sometimes we have designs and techniques that we love, and we tend to only do them once, or at least I know I do, because I have other projects that I'm working on and I feel like I need to do something new and different and fresh for every card. But if it's a technique that you love and it works and it gives you a great card, we shouldn't be afraid to go back and use that technique over and over. If you get great results, why not keep doing it if you love it? So here's that stenciled design. It's got a little bit of that ink in the background to add to the blue, some blue glitter paste in the front, and that design coming off from the side. I've also added another heart and a similar sentiment, so this fits in with my other two cards as kind of part of the set. So that's card number 3. I'm going to move on to card number 4, which again is very similar, but I just wanted to show you another way that you can use these stencils. So I have my cardstock taped down. I'm actually using this painter's tape as sort of a mask here. I want a nice crisp edge. I'm masking off one side of my cardstock, and I'm just going to ink blend again. If you can't tell, I do love ink blending. This time I'm using Distress inks. You can use whatever inks you have. I'm sure they'll all work. And once you have your ink on there, you can slowly and carefully peel off that painter's tape. So I like to take my painter's tape, roll it back on itself, and slowly peel it away from the paper. I find that peeling it back on itself like this helps it to reduce the risk of ripping your paper. I also like to take a wet wipe and just wipe off that ink that's been left on my tape, and I also like to dry it with a towel. That way my tape is clean when I move it to mask off the next part of my cardstock, and I'm not going to get any ink transferring to my background. I'll get a nice clean color when I ink blend with my inks. So I'm going to go ahead and use this piece of tape and just mask off another stripe. I'm just adding 3 really simple stripes here to my background. I'm adding another piece of painter's tape, and I'm going to ink blend, and this time I'm using a dark blue. I'm choosing darker colors for this technique because I'm going to go ahead and stencil over the top of these stripes, and I'm going to use a white pigment ink for that. So the white will really show up really well against dark colors. It will show up as well against lighter colors, but you just won't see it as well. So for this technique, I really do like using the dark colors because you get a lot more contrast when you put the white on top of it. So again, I'm peeling off these pieces of painter's tape. I'm sticking it down to my glass mat, and I'm going to wipe them down with my baby wipe and my towel, getting all of that extra ink off of there, so that the next time I put them down onto my cardstock, hopefully I won't transfer any of that ink to my background, and I'll get nice clean colors. The one mistake I did do, now that I'm looking back, is you can see the white area that I'm not ink blending. I did get some smudges of ink on there, and after I put this one down and lifted it up, I got a lot of purple ink smudges, and I think the back of my tape actually picked up some of that purple ink and transferred it to the white as I was ink blending. So I've cleaned off the top of my painter's tape, but there was some ink hanging on the bottom. So I haven't had that happen with hybrid inks before, maybe because they dry a little bit quicker and they're a little bit more permanent, but with the distress inks today, that was a little bit of an issue, so maybe that's something to think about. I don't know if you want to let your inks kind of dry in between, or just use a clean piece of tape when you're putting it on that white area. But for my card, since I got some of that ink smudging, I just cut off that white part and I glued my striped part onto another white card base. And I can use that white piece that I cut off, I can use the back side of it for another card or to die cut or something, so I'm not going to waste that piece of paper. But you can always find little fixes if you make a mistake on your card. Since my stripes are just so straight, I just cut it off, put it over a piece of white cardstock, and my card was fine. You can hardly even tell. So I'm going to come in now with my stencil, and I'm lining up that straight edge from the stencil along the straight stripes that I've made, and I'm taping down my stencil with those pieces of painter's tape. And I'm going to keep my stencil in place while I ink blend. I'm using some scrapbook.com white pigment ink. I've been finding I really like this white pigment ink from scrapbook.com. It's really bright and vibrant, which is what I like in a white ink. It shows up when you stamp with it and when you ink blend with it. And honestly, I kind of ink blend with my white pigment ink more than I do stamp. So I don't know if that's a little bit different, but it really works well. You can see already it's giving that kind of white foggy or chalky look to my background, and you can go ahead and stencil over a dark color or a light color, but it'll show up better with a dark color with that white pigment ink. So here is my last card. I've trimmed it down, added a sentiment and a heart, put it on a Kraft card base, and it goes perfectly with the other 3 cards that I've already made. So I've kind of got a little set of cards here. I've tried to pick encouraging sentiments to send to friends, and that kind of finishes the video for today. So I hope this gives you a look at stenciling and cards. If you haven't already, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share, just do all the things. I'll catch you guys next time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.